Welcome to Answering the Call, the official podcast of the 12th Man Foundation. Our show brings you closer to the heart of Texas A&M athletics through powerful stories of perseverance, purpose, and life-changing opportunities made possible by 12th Man Foundation donors. From student athletes and coaches to former students and dedicated staff, you'll hear firsthand how donor support shapes the lives of Aggie student athletes in competition and beyond. Whether you're a lifelong Aggie or simply curious about what makes Texas A&M so special, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's episode. Howdy, and welcome back to another episode of Answering the Call, the official podcast of the 12th Man Foundation. I'm your host, Ivy Robinson, and I am just thrilled to be in studio today with 12th Man Foundation Vice President of Principal Gifts and Aggie football legend, Jacob Green, and the winningest head football coach in Texas A&M history, R.C. Slocum. Welcome to the show, both of y'all, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ivy.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's going to be a great conversation today, and I've got to start with this. I'm really curious. What aspects of the upcoming 2025 football season are y'all most anticipating? And is there anything that y'all are keeping a specific eye on this season?
For me, I'm really excited because of where we are and where we started last year. We were 7-1 at one time, and we were ranked in the top 10, and we were rolling. And all of a sudden, we had injuries. The injury bug hit us, an offensive line, and we lost two really good running backs, and we had 3 offensive linemen go down. So I'm interested to see how our backups now, because we got multiple people that can play, and we got a better lineup. So I'm excited about seeing where we are, and I know where Coach Elko, I know exactly what they're thinking. At least I think I know, but I'm happy about. That's what I want to see. I want to see where we are up front and where we're at running backs, because I think those are the two positions that last year, if we would have had backups, we would have been in good shape.
Mm-hmm. Coach, how about you?
Well, I think the same thing. I've been out to practice and watched them. I've seen some of the new talent that's come in, and we're a good-looking football team. And I really like our coaches, starting with the head coach. I think he's smart. He understands the game of football, and I think he's bringing discipline to our team and to our guys, and I'm very optimistic about this season. And that being said, we're in a tough league. You know, we're in a league where they beat you up every Saturday, but I like what I see in terms of our chance to be a very competitive team in a tough league.
Year 2 of the Elko era, it's going to be one to experience. I have that feeling. And I know so many Aggie fans and those listening are ready for the season to kick off. But speaking of football, I know many of our listeners, I would guess many of our listeners know the tremendous impact you both have made on Texas A&M football. But for those who may not be as familiar, could you both share about your backgrounds, including where you're from and how you got to Texas A&M and in the game of football? So Jacob, would you like to start?
No, sure, I'll start. I started out in high school. I grew up in Houston, and my dad was a working man. I mean, he was a working dad. I had to work. I grew up driving dump trucks and tractors, and so I knew how hard that was, and I thought football was a little bit easier compared to what I was doing with my dad, because, I mean, I was there 24/7 when I was growing up. I started driving trucks at 12 years old. But my story starts in high school. I started out and even before then I played football in elementary and middle school. But in high school, it was something I wanted to do. I grew up playing football, and we played tackle in the ditch and touching the streets because we didn't have a football field. But A&M started recruiting me. During the course of my years in high school, I guess I got a little better as I got older, and I had offers from a lot of different schools. And Texas A&M, my parents helped pick Texas A&M because coaches like R.C. and Emory Ballard, they recruited my parents. And A&M was a great football school. I mean, we were number 1 in defense when I was in high school. So it was a pretty easy decision for me being 70 miles from home in Houston and growing up watching A&M play and knowing how great their defense was, and I wanted to be a part of something special. And that's kind of how I got started. Coach recruited me, and then from then on, I just kept playing football.
Yeah. And Coach, can you share about your background really quick and how you got into coaching?
I grew up in Orange, Texas, Southeast Texas, working area, working family. My mother was a homemaker. She didn't work other than working with 3 boys, which is a full-time job. But my dad was a hard worker. We didn't have much. We were making ends meet, but the one thing I lived in the projects for a while as a kid, and my family stressed to me the importance of education. That we lived where we did because my dad worked hard, but he didn't have an education, and he was limited what kind of job he could get. And as time went on, he got better jobs, and we did a little better, got our own house. But I was taught always how important the education part was. I played sports. And I had great coaches. I had coaches who were good men that invested in me and pushed me and polished me. I got a scholarship, got a chance to be the first in my family to go to college. And I did it because I had a scholarship, football scholarship, and I had great coaches there that just polished on me. And so that's why I went into coaching. I thought if I could have the impact on some other young man that my coaches had on me, that'd be a wonderful way to make a living and a rewarding way to do it. And so I did that and coached 2 years in high school, then got into college coaching at Kansas State, came to A&M, went to Southern Cal, came back to A&M, then eventually became the head coach at A&M. And I'll say this, that we won a lot of games. In the decade of the 90s, I think we lost 4 times in 10 years at Kyle Field. And we won the 98 championship, and we went 4 years without losing a conference game. All that is great, and I've got some watches and rings and stuff. But the lasting and most important thing that I did was what my coaches and I, the investment we made in the young men, and to see them grow, develop, and get their educations. And now I'm seeing the second generation of guys that I coached. I'm seeing their kids who live a different lifestyle. They live in nice neighborhoods, and they expect to go to college. They take vacations in the summer, and to see the progress that we've made. And I'll say this, it was through the support with my adult life of coaching here at A&M, those loyal 12th man supporters that have supported the program through thick and thin. We didn't always win all the games, but the support was there, and they take great pride, as I do, in those young men, that they had a big hand in helping them get a college education, and they changed lives.
Mm-hmm. And I couldn't have said it better myself, what you said there. I mean, the financial opportunity that, especially here at Texas A&M, 12 Foundation supporters and season ticket holders, the opportunities they're providing for student athletes is just remarkable. And they give them that opportunity to better themselves, to continue their athletic career and go on and change the entire trajectory for their life, for their family's life. And so thank you for speaking to that, Coach. Yeah. I'm curious for both of you, and Coach Slocum, you hit on this, but the value of that college education, and why was it specifically important for both of you to not only continue the football career, but to get that college education? Can you speak to why that was important for both of y'all personally?
Well, I identify with so many kids that, we didn't take vacations to Europe. We didn't, I've often said, if you sit at a dinner table and Uncle Bill is an attorney and Uncle Joe is a doctor, and those kids, they grow up in a different environment than ones where like in my case, my dad was working shift work and doing things just trying to buy bread. And so there's so much that you don't know, so much exposure. Doesn't mean you're not smart. You just have not had the exposure. And that's where coaches go in with, coaches couldn't do it by themselves, but they go with the support of like the 12-man donors. They go in and take a kid, an inner city kid, a small town, and bring him and polish him. And we've got the resources here. We've got good professors. We've got good support in the athletic department to saying, hey, we're going to change your life. It's going to be life-changing for you and your family because when you come and go through this experience and go through the college education and the coaching, the values of like showing up early and being on time, working hard, and having goals, and dealing with disappointment. Sometimes you lose some of those games, and there are big lessons to be learned after one of those disappointing deals. Okay, what are we going to do now? Are we going to sit around and mope about it, or are we going to go back to work and get better and overcome the? And so all those lessons are great for young people, and so I feel so positive about what we did over the years. And we did it with the support of our donors. And a lot of them, I'd say, realize that. A lot of them see beyond just winning. Tell me how many games you won or how did we play. A lot of them see beyond that and see what we really do is change lives.
Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing is like the game of football, it's so much more than just football. It's about changing lives, preparing young men to go out into society and become great contributors to their community and to impact and to give back. And so, Jacob, can you speak to that a little bit? And
Yeah, football, I always say football gave me a jump start in life. I'm like Coach. We started out as a family. I worked, like I said, I worked in my dad's landscaping business, and my summer was not going to Galveston, where most kids were going, or to Padre Island, or to wherever, Europe, or anywhere. Mine was 7 days a week. I was working, driving trucks and tractors, and I talk about that because when I got my scholarship to Texas A&M, everybody's not going to play football. I was lucky. I was blessed, and all the guys that you see playing football are blessed, because out of all the people in the world, there's only less than 1,500 NFL football players, where I was lucky to play that game. And even in college, where I got my jump start, that was a part of where you start at. And if you don't make it, you got to have something to fall back on, education. And that was one of the things where I wanted to be able to play football. I was, like I said, I was blessed and able to play and played for 13 years in the NFL and was lucky, and then came back to Texas A&M, where I got my education and worked for the 12th man, and I see how the 12th man works. I see how lucky I was to get a scholarship, because if I didn't have a scholarship, I wouldn't have been able to afford to come to Texas A&M. That's like so many of these other kids, the student athletes I see now. So for me, being able to look back and say, hey, I'm so lucky to be where I am today, and it's because of the education I got at Texas A&M, and the coaches and my parents, and what our donors do for us. Because you got a 17-year-old kid coming from Cashmere Gardens High School and going to Texas A&M in 1976 with 30,000 students. I mean, it was unbelievable. And so that's why I say now, I always tell people Texas A&M gave me a jump start in life, education, football, and a better life.
Let's go back to your time at Texas A&M. When you came in as a freshman, joining the Aggie defense and being
his coach.
Yeah, being under Coach Slocum as you were coach. You were his position coach. So tell me about that time of your life and what it was like learning from Coach Slocum.
Well, Coach Slocum was one of the greatest, not only football coaches, but as a person, but the way he treated his players and how smart he was with how we could shut down people on offense. And when I came in, I was a freshman, and there were guys, All-Americans like Tank Marshall and Jimmy Dean, and I was a freshman, and those guys helped me. But Coach helped me. He used to tell me, he would always tell me I couldn't play high. I wanted to go make a play, but there was discipline, because if I went off on my own and did something, it would disrupt the whole defense. But so I had to learn to be a team player, as far as, and which I was, but I wanted to make every play, and sometimes you can't make every play. Mm-hmm. And if you make every play, every now and then, if you don't make that play, then that's going to be something to pay for on the defense. So, but my freshman year, I mean, hey, I came in and I played some, but I I wanted to play football, and I, playing under the coach here, it just made me smarter, made me a better football player.
Coach, can you share your perspective on Jacob as you were coaching him here at Texas A&M?
It was obvious right from the start. He had great talent, and he had great character. He was a good person. He had good training at home. And so he was easy to coach. You know, he's a young guy, got a bunch of talent. It's on me now as a coach. I got no excuse because he showed up with a good attitude and a lot of ability. And we just started working on him. He did have some things he needed to be coached on, but he was coachable. And so we got along well, and he started as a true freshman at defensive end, which is a hard thing to do. But he was a talented guy. I've been up to Seattle with him, and you go in that stadium with the Seattle Seahawks and the Ring of Honor up there on top of their stadium. They got Jacob Green up there.
It's pretty remarkable. It is. I mean, when y'all reflect on your time during that era at Texas A&M, are there any moments or games that really just stand out to both of y'all?
You know, the game that stands out to me most, and for me, it was my senior year because we really had great talent, and we just, for some reason, we just couldn't put it all together. I mean, we go up and beat Penn State, which was like number 2 or 3 in the country, and we beat them down there, and so we started out 2-0, and I mean, we were rolling, and we finished the season 6-5, but we win a game, lose a game. My senior year, I never will forget when Coach came in for the game, and we talked about this is your pride, this is where you are. We're playing Texas. They were number 2 team in the country, and we had a bonfire that night, and I spoke that night, and I told everybody we were going to beat them, and not exactly in those words like that. It was a little more
spirited.
Spirited, and the crowd went crazy, and we did. The first play of the game, you know, they tried to end the round, and I remember making a play in the backfield, and everybody goes crazy, and we wind up winning that game 13-7, and that was probably one of the greatest football games that I played in that I really remembered as a college player, and we went in and beat the number 2 team in the country here at Kyle Field, and it was just we had a lot of great moments at Kyle Field. That was a special one for us because we were seniors, and it was my last game here, and so I just, you know, we just took it all in.
Anything you'd like to add, Coach? Yeah,
you know, there's so many games that stand out in your mind. One that was particularly fun, again, against Texas, because that's kind of how you judge yourself, I think, if you're your number one rival. But we played them in '93. They came here. And at that time, they had the all-time Southwest Conference consecutive wins. They had won 21 straight games at one time and without a loss in the conference. And we were playing them for the championship, but also to break that record and go to the Cotton Bowl. So they came in here, we beat them, and we became and ended up, the league's no longer here, but we were the all-time consecutive wins in the South. We went 4 years, we didn't lose a conference game. And we beat them for the championship and a trip to the Cotton Bowl and to break the record. So that was fun. There were a lot of, you know, the 98 Big 12 championship, we came from behind. We were down at halftime. We came back and won it in double overtime. That was a fun game. Without a doubt, the most meaningful game to me was the bonfire game in '99, a game for a different reason. It wasn't a hoopla kind of a game, something we had to win that game. And I felt more pressure to win that game than any game I ever coached. You know, we just needed that. We had so much sorrow and everything going on. We couldn't stand anymore. And our guys, we played number 7 team in the nation. Texas again was ranked number 7, and we went out and beat them in that game. So if you ask me the most meaningful game, without a doubt, it would be that game.
Mm-hmm. What was going through your mind at that game in those last moments? You know, the clock's ticking down when y'all realized we did it, we won, and what did it mean for that entire fan base?
I told our team all week that we owed it to our fans and to those young people who lost their life. We owed it to do the best we could do. You know, and I didn't want to put the pressure. I never told them, "Oh, we got to win this game." I never said that at all. I said we've got to give the best effort, give the best. However good we can play, we need to play like that, and we need to give just total, absolute, lay it on the line effort. And so we did that, and,
right.
and it was good enough to win.
You know, something about that game in that time, what I think is so remarkable is many of the players went and helped with Bonfire. And when I watched the documentary not too long ago, the Bonfire documentary that 12 Man Productions put together, there was clips of them moving logs together. And was that something they just came together and wanted to go do?
We were scheduled to practice that morning. And instead, the players said, we want to go over there and help. And so I went over there, and those players, it was one of the great, I think, memories and pictures of A&M was the regular students and the football players all carrying these logs. It may be 10 guys carrying one of those logs, and it was just a student body, which included football players.
Right. Jacob, were there any moments that you really felt the power of the 12th man and the student body and the fans and the season ticket holders that really helped elevate your game on game days?
Well, yes. I mean, that game day, before then, I want to just say the coach was talking about that game, the Bonfire game. Mm-hmm. That one was particular. It was special to me because I was at home. And when that happened, and we're getting ready to play Texas, and that week, normally Coach and Mac Brown would come to Houston for this talk about the game, the touchdown club, and so they asked me to do it, and they asked Chris Gilbert, who was one of the Texas former players, and at that press conference got emotional for me, especially because I thought about what had happened to our students. And instead of us harassing each other and talking about how we're going to beat you, we pulled together that time and we talked, and I said, you have two of the greatest universities in the state of Texas here, and I wanted to thank them for what they did. And I think that pulled our team and their team together at that point in time. Mm-hmm. And I remember the band, Texas band, playing the Aggie War Hymn, which I thought was classy. And that just, we put everything else aside and got that done. So right. I want to say that. But
no, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And it was, for me personally, while I was not there during that time, to look back on it and reflect on it and to see how those universities came together during such a devastating time, it really touches your heart. And to know that two huge rivals came together, they united throughout such a tragedy to lift each other up. So thank y'all both for sharing about that game.
One of the things I want to mention is that we have support here for our athletes through the 12th man. We've been able to provide ongoing support for these guys, in the forms of tutors and it's not just when you're here 4 years. We've had a number of our guys come back, and Sir Parker came from Los Angeles. And our people worked with him here. He did some online things, but he came back and he was so proud to have his guys during COVID. And I was sick at that time. I was going through the chemo, but I felt so strongly, and he was so proud. I said, "Come on by. I'll let you. We'll sit on the front porch, and maybe I'll be safer out there. But I want to see you with that gown and everything." So he came over to my house. And he was so proud to be the first in his family to be a college graduate. Mm. But our people here do a great job. Jamar Toombs came back, 40-something years old. And I've got a great picture of him standing on the ring over at the Association of Former Students that had his picture. And he so that's kind of hidden things that goes on every day around here. And right close to where we are right now, we have people that work all day long trying to polish on these athletes. And my coaches did that to me when I was in college. I needed a lot of polish too.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned this, Coach. Let's take a minute to talk about the resources and the facilities and the awesome elite programs that Aggie student athletes have today because of this tremendous support from the 12th Man Foundation donors and season ticket holders. And Jacob, I know you've witnessed this firsthand in your role with the 12th Man Foundation. Can you speak to that?
Yes, of course. I'm amazed and still amazed of how, when I was in school, we had the best of the best. I mean, I remember going in the chow hall at King Hall, which I loved. We had a place to eat every day, 3 meals a day. We had nice dorms to sleep in. And you look at, we had great professors, we had tutoring, we had a place to go to learn. We never had a lack of somebody to help us as a student athlete. And that's all sports. And that says a lot to Texas A&M. It says a lot about 12th Man Foundation, where I am a living witness of a kid coming up out of a place, the hood, as folks call it, and I still go back there to get my hair cut, come from there to Texas A&M, where now I work for the 12th Man Foundation, providing scholarships for student athletes in anything that they need. That's what we do, and I'm honored to be a part of that. I see full-blooded where my scholarships come from. Some of the people that I met that watch me play, and they're my personal friends now. And where else can you get that? Nowhere. You can't get that. You can't buy that anywhere where you come back to a place that gave you so much, and now you're a part of giving back and trying to do the right thing for our student athletes, for our university. It doesn't get any better, right. And I'm honored to be a part of it. I'm honored to be that guy, that student athlete, where I can say, hey, look where I started and look where I am. And this is why I do what I do, because of what we've done here, 12th Man Foundation, Texas A&M, with athletics and with our students and the whole university. That it hits hard and it hits home, because I'm a part of that now, and I see how our donors give. I see what they they continue to give and never say no. Never say no. They can't do as much, but they never say no. And that's the part about being an Aggie. And that's the fun part of what I do here now. And I love it.
They always answer the call. And that's really where this podcast name came from, because the 12th Man Foundation donors, they always answer the call of support. They step up to provide these life-changing opportunities.
Without a doubt. Hey, Jake, you know what? You mentioned going back there to get your hair cut.
Yeah.
If you wanted to, I think I could cut your hair.
Probably.
Are you going to let
if you ever get in the mind, just come to my house. I cut it for you.
I go every week. I go every week.
And staying on this note of the resources, the great facilities, I want to know y'all's perspective on this very building that we're sitting in right now. And then we've got the Coolidge Football Performance Center. What is it like taking all of these resources in from y'all's perspective?
Well, I'll say this, because I've seen it firsthand. The really good players, the kind we need here, they go visit other schools, and they go visit good schools that have resources. And I'm so proud of our former students for what they've done in recent years. Hasn't always been that way. Not that we were just so far behind. It wasn't that our people weren't being supportive. We just went through a period of time where we were way behind, and it took us a while, but we have caught up in rapid time. And I remember I took a group around to look at other facilities. I was saying, we're way behind. I had pro scouts coming in telling me, y'all better do something. And so I told our people, I said, don't take my word for it. Why don't we just go look? Let's go. So we went to several other schools, comparable schools, and they came back and said, hey, we got to go to work. We're behind, way behind. And I credit our people have really, really done a great job of supporting, stepping up, and I'm very proud of what we have here now. And then the same thing, the NIL thing that's going on now, it's not whether everybody likes that or thinks it should or that's the rules. We didn't make those rules. That's what was handed to us. And you either compete or you don't. And we've got too much invested in our facilities and the pride and the way we do things that if we're going to play the game, we have to be competitive in this area. It's like, okay, tell us what the rules are. We didn't make the rules. Tell us what the rules are, and we'll compete with the rest of them. And so I'm totally supportive. We've got good people now working in that area, and we're again, it's another area of competing where we are able to compete on the field on game day. There's certain things in today's world that you have to do if you're going to compete, and we're all about competing. Aggies compete wherever they go, whether it's in the classroom or business world or whatever. We compete.
I think Coach hit it on the head when he said, what we have here, facility-wise, we have the best of the best, and we're continuing to do so. And you got to keep pace with everyone. And the NIL is a different beast, and we got to keep pace because all the other schools is like Coach said, we didn't make up the rule. The rule was handed to us and say, hey, this is what you can do. And believe me, Aggies will respond. We have responded, and we thank you every day that they have responded for the NIL and what they've done. We got that. We got stuff coming in, and once we finish this off, you'll understand how important it is because we're going to be good. It's a football, baseball, basketball team, all those. But I know, in fact, that we're doing the right thing. And again, it's all about, and because of what our donors do for us at the 12th Man Foundation and what Aggies do, they pull together. When times look like they're real tough, then we're able to come through and make things happen. And that's the same thing with our university. We make it happen. And so I think that was a great point, Coach, what you said about how and the timing of everything for us.
Thank you both for sharing that. I want to go back to something really quick. Both of y'all had tremendous opportunity through an athletic scholarship, and y'all had individuals and key figures who poured into you as young men. How do you think the generosity and the opportunity of that athletic scholarship change the way you look at life? Like Jacob, I know you've started your own charities and fundraising work on your own. Like, how did the generosity you experienced as a young individual pour back?
I always said if I was able to make it, whether that's success, whether it was not in football or as a business person, which if I hadn't played football, I would have fallen back on what I did growing up, which was in landscaping. And when I retired from football, I actually went into it and did it. And I wanted to see if I could master it like my dad did, and I was able to. But I was also had a gift for being around people, and I wanted to give something back. I always said if I made it, I'd give something back regardless. It's now, I'm a 12-man donor. I give back to football, baseball, softball, I try and do the best. Outside of that, I have my foundation, which I just got back from Seattle, and we had a gala and golf tournament, which raised over $1 million for an event to help people. Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center. So I lost my dad to cancer, and so that sticks with me. And my dad taught me how to give back, and that's one of the things that I wanted to do was be able to give back to my community here. Put golf tournaments in Houston that I did for 20 years, giving it back, and all the Aggies would come out and help give back to that also. And so now my goal now is to try and do something to give back in this community and help with what we normally do. So it teaches you a lesson that, you to give and to receive, you need to give back. That's just the way it is. That's the way I was brought up. So, I don't know. Coach, he can comment on that himself too.
Well, we've been blessed, both of us, and put in a position where there are a lot of things we can do. It'd be interesting to see what Jacob's travel throughout a year and what mine is of just going to, whether it's the Heart Association, of his MD Anderson, just all those different charities that we're involved in, and you give your time and your resources. I can't tell you in a year's time how many times I would drive to Houston and back to support some function, charitable function. Mm-hmm. And whether it's speaking, maybe playing in a golf tournament, and they say, "Oh, you just play golf." No, a lot of those things you go and it's a scramble. You're not even playing your own ball. You're playing with four people that you've never met. Mm-hmm. But you do that to help the organization bring in people that serve a whole bunch of different causes. Exactly. One of them, I was so proud last year, there's an organization in Houston called the Halo Foundation, and they provide housing for people who have cancer at MD Anderson. It's a place where they can go stay for just a small amount of money a night. And because people come in, time they park and get a hotel room and do all of that, for the average person, they just can't. And some of those illnesses are life-threatening, but they can't afford it. So this organization said, hey, we'll help those people. And I was involved, but I was so pleased there that night. They took a picture. They honored me as a fundraiser for this organization. And that night it was a black tie event, and they took a picture, and I had my immediate family there, like kids and grandkids and their spouses. And there were 16 A&M degrees represented in that picture. And I said, thank you, Lord. It's all worked out. But I had all those people, their families there. And so Jacob spends a lot of time. He spends all of his time, really, one way or the other, either directly with A&M former students or his charity or other charitable organizations that you're supporting with your presence at some of those things. To say, yeah, come on, so I do a lot of that. I retired from A&M in January of 2025. But my schedule hasn't changed much at all.
Well, that is awesome. And, thank you again, like Coach said, to all those who have supported, whether it's through NIL, whether it's through facilities or donating to impact scholarships, provide scholarship opportunities.
Yeah, just buying a ticket, coming to the game. Come support your team. You know? And sometimes, I used to marvel at this. Sometimes we'd have on the schedule, and you always have a game or two on there that's not a big time opponent. And so, I don't think I'll come for that game. I said, who are you coming to see? Your team or some other team, man? You come watch your team every week.
Right.
And be here, see your old college buddies, see your friends, be on campus. And so that was kind of my theme. Come watch your team play and support these kids and show up every week, and we have a lot of people that do that,
No 2%ers. No.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got to ask both of y'all this because y'all are college football Hall of Fame inductees, which is quite the prestigious recognition. And, I read online, this is so interesting, that only 0.02% of college football players and coaches can claim that honor. So very, very small percentage. Both of y'all, can y'all just share the stories of how you each found out about that induction and what that moment meant to both of you?
Go ahead, Coach.
Well, it's a huge honor. I mean, as a coach, that's the top. There's some really how long you coach, your winning percentage. There's a lot goes into it, and you still have to be selected. It's a selective process, so it's really a great honor. My wife's got a nice wedding ring, and I tell her, I said, you know what, you can buy that. I can go buy another one. Can't buy this one. This one here, you have to earn it. And in my case, you do it by having good coaches, good players. That's how you get into the College Football Hall of Fame as a coach. Mm-hmm. And Jacob's in there as a player, and he had coaches work with him, but he brought a whole lot to the table on that. He did things that you have to do to set himself apart from thousands, literally thousands of players. Think every year how many teams play major college football, and then go back all those years, and to set yourself apart in that crowd, that's a heck of a distinction.
Well, for me, it's certainly an honor to be in. And when I was not in, I went in 2019, which was that COVID year. And that was the last time that we did the ceremonies in New York. But the previous years before then, I remember when Coach went in and we had a big party for him. And it was just something wow, boy, if I could ever, get into that, and it's a hard ticket to get in. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it, too. I mean, Coach supported. He nominated me. And what was really fun, though, before I got in, we would go to New York, and I'd go to the lunch with him. There was a special pre-lunch event where they talked, and I met a lot of the folks there. And then they would go into their lunch. But Coach always invited me to come and meet guys, meet Archie Manning, meet guys who I played against, and It was just fun. It was just unbelievable to be there. And then in 2019, when I got in there, of course, 12th man supported me. We had, I think it was maybe one of the largest parties down there. I had over 200 guests, and that was all 12th man because of the people that I got to know and people that want to be a part of it. And that's Aggies. That's Aggies helping and being around Aggies. And it's a fun time, and we got a few guys in like that, Wynn and Ray Childress, and we'll have some more go in. Dave Elbendorf is in. But the thing of it is, it's just an awesome time, and just you're among your peers and just good people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And congrats to both of y'all. It's a tremendous honor. And I got 2 more questions for y'all before we wrap up today. Right. Jacob and Coach, let's start with Coach really quick. Coach, if you could give one piece of advice to a young football coach, what would it be and why?
I would encourage a young coach to coach for the right reasons. And, I said almost like a ministry. You're given an opportunity to take a precious, go into some home, take their most prized possession, their son, that they entrust to you, and don't take that responsibility lightly. He's going to listen to you if you're the right kind of guy, and be sure you're teaching him good lessons and lessons that will help him beyond football. It's not all about football. If you're coaching just for football or getting the next job or whatever, you're coaching for the wrong reasons. If you coach for the right reasons, you'll have a good and enjoyable and meaningful career. And that is pouring in and saying, I'm going to try to make this guy not only the best football player, but I'm going to try to make him the best person that he can be. He's a young guy and needs direction. Help him stay focused, help him get ready for life. Help him. I used to tell my guys, and I really believe this, like sometimes a young man, some of the guys we recruited sometimes, the name that they had, the last name, was not always a name with great meaning. Maybe their dad had been incarcerated or what, or maybe never even knew their dad, but the name, that last name, didn't have great meaning. But I would tell them, and I told them this on a regular basis, that name on the front of that Texas A&M, their people have been working for 100 years to make that name mean something good. And you're going to wear that on the front. That name on the back, your name, by the way you handle yourself, how you play, how you conduct your business, that's the name you're going to give to your little daughter someday or to your little son someday. And it's on you to make sure that name has a good meaning when you give it to your son or daughter.
Jacob, anything you would add in terms of advice you would give to a young football athlete?
Well, the thing that, I go back to the coaches that recruited me and what they told me and what they told my parents. For one, I've been knowing Coach longer than I've been knowing any other human being other than my wife, which I met in high school, my junior year, and my parents. I've known him longer than anybody, period. And me coming in as a player, what I would tell young student athletes or young kids that want to play any sport, you got to coach Lagraska. Dan Lagraska was my primary recruiter because he was in Houston, and we got to be friends, really good friends. Family's like a dad to me too, like Coach. And he would always tell my mom's name was Tommy May. He'd go, Tommy May, all Jacob has to do is keep his nose clean and just go to school. And meaning by just, look, things are going to happen as a young kid. And look, I made more mistakes than anybody. But you can go past mistakes if you're a good person and if you're trying to do the right thing. And I would tell a kid is to listen to the coach, listen to your parents. My 3 daughters all graduated from A&M. 2 of them played soccer here. And I would tell them, hey, listen to your coach. Hey, sometimes you might not agree, but most of the time, coaches are there for you to help you. And if there's a problem, you talk to them. I've never had a problem with any coaches, whether it was high school, junior high, college, or in the NFL. I've never had a problem with coaches because I always respected them. And I just think that if you just go about life and treating people the right way, it all comes back to you. So that's what I would tell a young kid. Just keep your nose clean. Hey, try to do the right thing. And there's a lot of temptations out there, whether it's whatever. But if you can just try and stay focused, those are the things that'll get you through life. And everybody's not going to play football, basketball, baseball. That's why you come here and get your degree and make way more money than some professional sports. So do that, and that's what I tell. That's what I say. That's what I tell all kids when I talk to them. Hey, try and do the right thing. Listen to your parents. Listen to somebody that takes care of you. So, yeah.
I think what you're kind of getting at there, like at the core, is just have respect for those around you. Treat everyone the way you'd want to be treated.
That's exactly what it is.
Work hard,
and it
stay
works
focused.
Out. Stay focused, yeah.
Absolutely. And to wrap up today, for both of you, why are y'all specifically proud to be Aggies?
I bleed maroon. You hear people talk like that. I mean, yeah, I bleed maroon, and I'm proud to be an Aggie because of everything that I've done in my life. I credit Texas A&M and my parents. I'd say my high school football coach, Johnny B. Felder, Coach Franks, Coach Jones, and college, Coach Slocum, Coach Register, Melvin Robinson, Dan Legraska. Those coaches, Jess Stiles, are the ones that made me the player I am, in George Dyer in Seattle, Chuck Knox, Jack Patera, Jim Moore in professional. And I've been blessed. I've been blessed to have great leadership, and, families is so important. My wife has been the stone of our house when I was out on the road all the time, and now too, when we raising our daughters. And just, my son-in-law, my daughters, my grandkids, all Aggies. And that's what Texas A&M is all about. I am so proud to be an Aggie. And if somebody says something about Texas A&M when I'm around, that's a fight. That's just, and I don't fight it.
Just don't go there.
Just don't go there. You can't talk bad about my university. You really can't. You can't say anything bad about, regardless. I don't care what has happened. Don't disrespect Texas A&M. I can get pretty upset about that. And then the bad Jacob come out. Okay? But I am so proud to be an Aggie. I love Texas A&M, and I know guys who played here. I go down the line. My friends, they all feel the same way. The guys who I hang with, guys, former players, they feel the same way. So Texas A&M is so special to me. The 12th man is special to me, again, because we support and we do everything we can for our student athletes and for people in general. And so I'm honored to be a part of it, and I can't be any more proud of my university and what we do to just say, hey, thank you.
I've given you some of my background growing up in Orange, and it's a strange thing. There was the most prominent family in Orange. It was Stark High School, the Stark family. Homer Stark, one of the sons, had kids in school with me, and through the kids, I ended up over at his house, and for whatever reason, he took a liking to me. And he was an Aggie and had Aggie stuff all over his house. And so he told me one, he said, Slocum, my boy, we got to get you up to A&M, up to Aggie land. So he brought me up here for a football game, and went to Bonfire and the whole thing. And I was hooked. From that time on, A&M was always a school. I didn't get a chance to go to school or play football there, but I always kept up with the Aggies and followed that. And my senior year in high school, my position coach had played at A&M, a guy named Ralph Smith. And then later he coached with Gene Stallings here. But I heard all about A&M from him, And so then as I got into college coaching and started looking around, everybody moved around a little bit as young coaches. But the people I looked at and said, if you look at Bo Schembechler at Michigan, Woody Hayes, Ohio State, Vince Dooley at Georgia, Joe Paterno at Penn State, Darrell Royal at Tech, all those guys all had got a place and stayed. And when you think about that school, you think about Arkansas, I think about Frank Broyles. I think about, and so I said, that's pretty. So then after spending 30 years here, I had chances to go other places after I coached at A&M. And when it got down to it, I just never could pull the trigger. I said, I've got 30 years of players here that I've known. I've got 30 years. If I was not coaching football or recruiting, if I was going somewhere, I was going quail hunting with Mike Cohn and going down to South Texas, or Aggie friends of mine. Mm-hmm. And so I just said, this is where I want to be, College Station and Texas A&M, and I've been so pleased with that decision now as I'm older. And that night in Houston a year ago when I looked up and saw all those kids, grandkids, daughters-in-law, and people, all the Aggies. Mm-hmm. And, that means a lot to me and my family. I've got 2 grandkids right now. I actually got 1 granddaughter and a niece and a nephew at A&M. And I've got I've got one more on the way. If I can get Bubba Slocum, man, he's a senior at A&M Consolidated. And if I can get him, then I'm done. I got it all done.
You're
all my
good.
kids
you
and
accomplished
grandkids.
The task. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm an A&M man. And coaches, when I go anywhere with coaches, they identify me with Texas A&M. Yeah, and so that's why I want us to do well. When I hurt when we don't do well. I get a lot of phone calls. What the heck? What's wrong with you? But when we do well, I get a lot of people calling, say, man, that was a great win. And so I'm very anxious and optimistic about this season and want us to do well.
Well, thank y'all so much for sharing y'all's stories today. And it's just both of y'all, tremendous testament to the power of an athletic scholarship and what it can do to lives and how it can transform lives and opportunities. So thank you both for being here today. Jacob Green and R.C. Slocum on Answering the Call podcast. Thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Answering the Call. If you're enjoying the show, please rate and follow us on your podcast streaming platform of choice so you can be the first to know when a new episode drops. As always, a big thank you to our incredible podcast producer, Megan Rohde, to 12th Man Productions, and Texas A&M Athletics NIL Department. We also extend our heartfelt gratitude to every single donor and season ticket holder for always answering the call through loyal support of Texas A&M Athletics and our student athletes. We will be back soon with more content. Thanks, and gig 'em.